The breaking point wasn't a yell, but the cold, sticky horror of purple soda cascading onto my expensive silk pants at that goddamn kids' table. In that instant, something didn't shatter loudly. It snapped with a quiet, chilling finality deep inside. Enough. Wordlessly, I stood, placed the cheap paper napkin beside the cartoon plate, turned my back on the scene, and walked. The soft click of the front door echoed louder than any rage I felt. My name is Annika. At 28, lead software engineer, one of the youngest to reach that level in my division's history, you'd think I could stride confidently into my parents' sprawling ranch house. Instead, my stomach twisted into the same tight, nauseating knot it did when I was 16 and missed curfew by 10 minutes. My knuckles whitened, gripping the leather steering wheel as the house finally came into view, its welcoming facade suddenly feeling like an imposing fortress guarding decades of unspoken judgment and unmet expectations. This mandatory Thanksgiving ritual, 4 times a year, felt less like a homecoming and more like stepping onto an emotional battlefield where my hard-won achievements were merely invisible shields against unseen critical arrows. Eleanor, Richard, Daniel, Sophia. They'd all be there, orbiting in their own worlds where my professional success felt alien, almost an inconvenient anomaly. I glanced reflexively at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Sharp, tailored blazer, precise makeup masking exhaustion, dark hair ruthlessly smoothed into submission. Armor. Every single bit of it meticulously applied this morning, a defense mechanism honed over countless uncomfortable gatherings against the familiar chill of their passive disapproval, the subtle dismissals expertly veiled as loving family banter. This polished exterior was my only shield. My heels clicked sharply on the stamped concrete walkway, each step deliberate, purposeful, a performance I perfected long ago. I didn't knock. I never did. Slipping inside, the familiar scent of roasting turkey and something vaguely cranberry-scented filled the air, but underneath it lay the suffocating undercurrent of disapproval that always seemed thicker when I was present. There she is, Eleanor's voice carried from the kitchen, bright but brittle. We were about to start without you. No hug, no direct eye contact, just that disembodied greeting floating over the sound of clattering pans. Sorry. The lie slipped out, smooth as silk from years of practice. Urgent project deadline blew up. Better than admitting I'd spent 15 minutes in my Lexus practicing calming breaths like a rookie facing her first code review. Always working. Richard materialized in the hallway, bourbon already in hand, his eyes doing a swift, familiar appraisal of my outfit before flicking away. Following the low murmur of conversation, I found Sophia arranging flowers on the main dining table, already glittering with Eleanor's finest china and crystal. Daniel sprawled in a chair, barely glancing up from his phone. Then Eleanor reappeared behind me, wiping her hands on an apron. Annika, dear, she began, her smile placid. Go ahead and find your spot at the kids' table. We set one up for you over there. The words hit with the force of a physical blow. I turned slowly, certain I'd misheard, my blood running cold. But there it was, undeniable. A cheap plastic folding table shoved in the corner, ringed with small, brightly colored chairs and set with cartoon-themed paper plates. For me, my voice, when it finally emerged, was surprisingly steady, despite the heat crawling up my neck. The kids' table? Eleanor's expression remained infuriatingly pleasant, unbothered. We needed the space at the main table for the Abbotts, dear. They joined us this year. She gestured vaguely towards Sophia's in-laws, whom I'd met precisely twice. I stood frozen, the meticulous morning preparation flashing before me, the careful outfit selection, the extra 15 minutes wrestling my hair into place, the pep talk in my condo mirror. Just get through it. 4 hours. My own space had felt like a sanctuary this morning. Now, trapped between escape and this bizarre humiliation, I forced my feet toward the plastic monstrosity. Lowering myself into a chair clearly designed for a 5-year-old, my knees practically hit my chest. The edge of the table jabbed uncomfortably into my ribs, forcing a hunch. My nephew Leo tilted his head. "Aunt Annika, why are you sitting here?" I swallowed hard against the lump in my throat. "Just mixing things up, buddy." Then, inevitably, Mia bumped her cup, sending a wave of purple soda cascading across the flimsy table and directly onto my cream silk pants. The cold seeped through instantly, a sticky, ugly stain blooming on expensive fabric. "Sorry, Aunt Annika." Her little face crumpled. "It's okay, sweetie." I dabbed uselessly with a dissolving paper napkin. And just like that, something inside me didn't shatter dramatically, but fractured with a quiet, chilling finality. I stood, the small chair scraping harshly against the hardwood. I folded the paper napkin, placed it beside the cartoon plate, retrieved my coat from the hall closet, and walked towards the front door, ignoring Eleanor's sudden, sharp, "Annika?" The door closed behind me with a soft click, restraint winning over the urge to slam it. "Annika! Where are you going?" Eleanor's voice, that perfect pitch of controlled outrage she perfected decades ago, cut through the crisp November air from the front window. I turned, meeting her bewildered, angry eyes through the glass. "I'm leaving," I said, the words simple, devoid of the drama they clearly expected. "Enjoy your dinner." My hands trembled as I slid the key into the ignition, the Lexus purring to life, its quiet vibration a strange comfort. Pulling away from the curb felt surreal, the silence in the car vast and terrifying. 28 years of family Thanksgivings, and I'd never broken rank, never left early. Before I reached the first stop sign, my phone buzzed against my thigh, then again and again. By the time I was 3 blocks away, the notifications were a relentless, angry hum. At a red light, I glanced down. Daniel. "Stop acting like a child. Come back." The irony was so thick it almost choked me. I was literally relegated to a child's seat 10 minutes ago, but I was the one being childish. Voicemail alert? Richard's voice, rough with bourbon and command. "Enough of this nonsense. Get home now. Not a request, an order." Sophia. "Mom is freaking out. Just come back and talk. You're ruining dinner for everyone, especially with the Abbotts here." The family group chat exploded. Accusations of sensitivity, selfishness, embarrassment. My exit wasn't about creating a scene, but their frantic, blaming responses laid bare just how little they understood or cared to. This wasn't concern. It was damage control. I drove without a destination, the familiar streets blurring into meaningless lines as the adrenaline slowly ebbed, leaving a hollow ache. Then, neon caught my eye. The Cozy Corner Cafe, its warm glow a beacon against the darkening November sky. The parking lot was half full, likely holding other holiday refugees seeking sanctuary. Stepping inside, the warmth hit me. Not just heat, but something genuine, unburdening. A waitress with kind eyes looked up from wiping the counter, taking in my probably smudged mascara and expensive out-of-place clothes. "Honey," she said, her voice low and gentle, You look like you could use some coffee." No judgment, no prying questions. She just slid a heavy ceramic mug in front of me as I slid into a worn vinyl booth. "And maybe a slice of pie," she added, her smile authentic in a way Eleanor's never was. "That would be perfect." My voice cracked. While waiting, I scrolled numbly through my phone's photo gallery. Christmas, 3 years ago. Everyone clustered together, me slightly offset, half-cropped. My graduation, Richard and Eleanor, beaming beside Daniel and Sophia, me holding my diploma just out of focus. The pattern, stark and undeniable once I allowed myself to see it, stretched back years. Just as the cherry pie arrived, my phone rang. An unknown number. Hesitantly, I answered. "Annika?" "It's Helen. Aunt Helen, Dad's sister, the family exile." "Your cousin showed me your message," she said, her voice rough but kind. "The kids' table. Honey, I want you to know something. You're not crazy." The validation slammed into me, tears finally blurring my vision. Aunt Helen's words echoed in the quiet booth long after we hung up. Then, another notification pinged, different this time. A text from Clara, Daniel's quiet, observant daughter. "I get it, Aunt Annika. They make me feel invisible too sometimes." My breath hitched. Even a child could see it. Back in the sanctuary of my modern loft condo later that evening, the silence wasn't empty. It felt charged with possibility. I pulled out a journal, the crisp, blank page a stark contrast to the messy emotions swirling inside. At the top, in bold letters, I wrote, "Boundaries." Then the words flowed with surprising clarity. 1. Attend family events only when treated as an equal adult. 2. No more dismissive comments about my career. 3. Meet on neutral ground, not their territory. The list grew, each entry a brick laid in the foundation of my reclaimed self-respect. I booked an emergency session with my therapist for the next day, then called Maya, who answered with immediate concern. "I did it," I told her, my voice still shaky but resolute. I walked out. A beat of silence, then, "Holy shit, Annika!" Finally, "I'm so proud of you." Fueled by this small surge of external validation and internal resolve, I spent the next hour compiling evidence, screenshots of condescending texts, emails where I was deliberately excluded from complex discussions, photos spanning years that screamed my peripheral status. This wasn't just about a table, it was about a lifetime. I drafted an email addressed not just to my parents and siblings, but to the entire extended family. "I love you, but I love myself enough to demand respect." My thumb hovered over send, a point of no return. I pressed it, then deliberately powered off my phone, the sudden silence profound. I arrived at the Cypress Room 20 minutes early, my heels echoing on the polished marble. I'd specifically requested the large, round table in the private alcove when making the reservation. No head, no foot, no built-in hierarchy. Perfect. Sliding my blazer off, revealing the power red shell beneath. Battle dress, not camouflage this time. I placed the name cards with deliberate care. My name, Eleanor, Richard, Daniel, Sophia, arranged with strategic precision. When they arrived together, a nervous huddle, I didn't stand. "Annika," Eleanor began, her voice tight. Richard's eyes narrowed as he scanned the table, the place cards clearly registering. Daniel's jaw clenched. Sophia clutched her purse strap. "Thank you for coming," I said, my voice steady, the one I used in tense code reviews, not family dinners. "Please, sit." They hesitated, caught off guard, but complied. Richard cleared his throat immediately. "I think we can all agree," he started, launching into a rehearsed speech about family unity, that we need to put this unfortunate incident behind us. Your father's right, Eleanor chimed in, eyes already glistening. This has been devastating. We've always been so close. Some people are just more sensitive, Daniel muttered, leaning forward. Maybe we can find a middle ground without all this drama, Sophia added quickly. I took a slow sip of water. I'd like to establish some ground rules, I stated calmly, placing the glass down. Each person speaks only for themselves. No interruptions. We focus on specific behaviors, not character judgments. Richard started to object. I held up a hand, silencing him mid-syllable. For 28 years, I continued, meeting each of their eyes, I've been systematically excluded. The children's table was simply the most literal example. Can anyone explain why a 28-year-old successful engineer belongs there? The silence that followed was absolute, suffocating. Finally, Eleanor broke the heavy silence, her fingers twisting her linen napkin. I suppose, she said, her voice small, lacking its usual authority. I never really saw you as fully adult, without a husband, a family of your own. That's how I was raised. Richard added gruffly, staring into his water glass. Success, in my day, meant building a legacy, a family. Your job? It's impressive, but it's not the same kind of permanent. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. Maybe, he mumbled, surprisingly hesitant. I've been intimidated. Things seemed to come easier for you. You didn't need Dad's connections like I did. It was simpler just to downplay it. Sophia's eyes glistened with what looked like genuine tears this time. I knew it wasn't right, how we treated you, she whispered, reaching a hand slightly across the table before pulling back. But changing it felt like admitting my part. I'm sorry, Annika. Truly. I absorbed their words, not with forgiveness, but with a stark, chilling recognition. This was the first honest conversation we'd had in years, maybe ever. Moving forward, I stated, my voice firm but neutral, I need certain boundaries respected. I will participate as an equal adult. My career and life choices will be respected, understood or not. My achievements acknowledged, just like Daniel's and Sophia's. I folded my hands. I want a relationship, but it has to be based on mutual respect, or nothing at all. I won't hesitate to walk away again. They exchanged loaded glances. Richard finally nodded, a slow, grudging movement. You've certainly grown up, Annika. I've been grown up, I replied steadily. You're just finally seeing it. When the check arrived, placed neutrally between Richard and me, I reached for it first, sliding my credit card into the leather folder without looking at the total. The symbolism hung thick in the air. As the waiter left, Eleanor touched my wrist. Do you think, she asked, her voice barely audible, it's really possible for us to change? The question lingered, raw and uncertain. 1 year later, my modern loft condo buzzed with a different kind of energy. The scent of roasting turkey mingled with sage and something bright and citrusy. My Thanksgiving unfolding in my space. Laughter echoed off the high ceilings as my family moved comfortably around the large dining table, set with real plates and cloth napkins stretching through my living area. No plastic folding table lurked in any corner. Eleanor appeared at my elbow, casserole dish in hand. Where would you like this, Annika? The question, still slightly novel, landed softly. On the sideboard, please. I smiled. Richard, nursing a sparkling water instead of his usual bourbon, actually initiated conversation about my latest project. That new security protocol you architected for the banking client? Quite impressive. Heard about it from Miller's son. Daniel, phone notably absent, sidled up later, awkwardly asking for advice about a potential career move. Even Sophia gently placed her fussing infant in my arms without hesitation, not as a default babysitter, but as a trusted equal. Aunt Helen chatted easily with the Abbotts near the window. Later, I overheard Clara proudly explaining to Maya's daughter, "My Aunt Annika taught us about boundaries." When we gathered, hands linked around my table, Richard asked what we were thankful for. My turn came. "Growth," I said simply, meeting each pair of eyes. In all of us. My place card, handwritten, sat at the head of the table. Some traditions deserved breaking, allowing far better ones to finally take root. My journey, especially that disastrous Thanksgiving, hammered home a lesson I wish I'd learned years sooner. My self-worth isn't tied to my family's validation, or anyone else's for that matter. I define my success and happiness now. Learning the immense power of establishing firm boundaries was terrifying at first, but absolutely necessary. Realizing I could say no to disrespect, that I could actually walk away from that kid's table and everything it represented, wasn't just liberating. It was essential for protecting my own sanity and reclaiming my sense of self. Sometimes, leaving is the most profound act of self-love. It took incredible courage to finally confront those long-standing, painful truths, to challenge the toxic patterns woven into our family fabric. But facing that fear was the crucial first step toward demanding change, or being willing to accept liberation without them. Knowing I wasn't alone in these struggles, hearing from Aunt Helen, and later finding others online, reminded me that seeking support isn't weakness, it's strength. And while my story shows change is possible, it absolutely requires mutual effort and respect from everyone involved. Healthy connections are built on reciprocity, not one-sided obligation. Does my experience resonate with you? Have you ever had to fight for your rightful place or demand respect within your own family or relationships? I invite you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If my story moved you, please share it, and perhaps follow for more narratives of resilience and finding your own voice.